Halfway through the storm, he's on his phone, I guess, posting that he's out of water. He has no power. He has his 2 daughters with him. He has no food. What should he do?
Oh, Lordy.
Where should he go? I mean, and after the storm, he had no power. He had no food. He had no water.
Mm-hmm.
And he was out looking for a hotel or something to stay at. And it's like, it's not going to happen.
No. Well, that we found that because, normally we have always evacuated. Like last year when Matthew came through, we did leave the barrier island and went into Orlando. And of course, we were very blessed that it decided to kind of bounce a little further east and didn't impact the Brevard County area as much as we had anticipated. Didn't really want it to, but we were very blessed. But I know that we've always evacuated. So this was really new for me to stay through this storm. And I thought...
Shame on you.
Yeah, I know. Well, there was nowhere to go. There really was nowhere to go by the time we decided to on Saturday.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we watched a lot. We knew you were leaving. We knew so many other friends were evacuating. There were so many individuals I followed on the path on Facebook that I kind of followed their journey. They went kind of in the direction you did. And then when they stopped in Georgia, they realized, oh, it's coming here. So then they started going further north. Then they went east when they realized it was going to kind of go northwest up into the state of Georgia and over into Alabama and all that. But they never stopped. They just kept on driving. And it was I know one of my Facebook friends ended up taking her whole family up to New Jersey. I mean, they just...
Well, a lot of the people had to because there were no accommodations.
Yeah.
And the fuel was, you could watch it, the ripple effect through the states. I mean, as the evacuation mass moved north, Georgia started running out of fuel. South Carolina started running out of fuel. Plus, those people were all being evacuated.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know. I told my sister when we realized it was coming into Naples, get over here. And she goes, I only have a half a tank of gas, and there's not a single gas station here in Naples that I can get gas. So I can't go, and and it was like, oh my gosh, that was just how serious it did get. And I know with us, yes, we stayed, and we just some minor damage. We're probably going to need to get a new roof, things like that. But we are very blessed. We don't have a lot of any water leaking. We had it coming in through the windows and such. But those are things I can handle. I actually handled the aftermath of the week without power. We were without power from Sunday. From 5:45 p.m. was when our power went out until the next Sunday at about 3:30 in the afternoon or something.
That's rough, and people don't understand that. One of the things that people are missing on this is that if this was 2004, this was a massive storm. This affected the entire state.
Yeah.
And if this was 2004, and we have another one coming up. There still is gas shortages. There still are power issues. If you've been to the stores, you'll realize that there's still not a lot of stuff in the stores.
Exactly. Our shelves are still bare.
If you've been to Home Depot, there is nothing left to fix anything. I was there last night, and forget about nails, forget about anything, because it just doesn't exist. And people are just kind of like going about their normal everyday life. and that's good, but you need to really prepare.
Well, and we thought we were pretty prepared. I mean, I still have lots of water. We had plenty of water. We had plenty of wine, lots of beer, as everybody else does. and a lot of, comfort food. In fact, the night before the storm, I had to make a run over to the mainland because we had no chocolate. And that was just really, okay, I can't get through tomorrow without chocolate. All this dieting.
She's right, folks.
All this dieting that we've been doing and releasing weight just kind of went out the door this last week, I don't even want to get on the scale. But what really was the most stressful part for everyone, because I kind of put a post out there to a lot of my friends on social media about, what was your biggest challenge? What really impacted you both professionally and personally? And I would say a lot of people really were frustrated, a number of things. One, there was no ice to be found. And those of us, we were all without power.
Where was FEMA? FEMA's always been there with ice.
Yeah.
There was no ice.
I couldn't find FEMA.
No ice.
2 days for us. We had one big bag, 20-pound bag in our freezer, and we were trying to keep the freezer cold, and and we had the 2 coolers, and so we went for 2 days without ice. So we threw a lot of food away that I didn't want to take a chance and in eating because it had completely thawed out and was not under, refrigeration for a couple days. But even towards the end of the week, every day we would go on a journey to find ice and air conditioning.
Let me share something with what you said about your food. Mm-hmm. As soon as your food, and a lot of people don't realize this, but as soon as your food starts thawing out, you can go and you can cook that food. And if you cook it properly, it'll last a couple of days for you. And you can eat it, but you have to be able to cook it.
And during the storm you can't, but we had our grill. We had a couple, our gas tanks and such for that. But the fact of the matter is, I had a whole turkey. Where the heck was I going to store that turkey after I cooked it? Because I didn't have ice.
Right, right. So, well, as long as it's frozen, it acts as ice.
It did for the first couple of days. That was my biggest, and of course we froze water bottles and gallon jugs and things like that. So we did prepare. But we were talking a little bit before the show today with you, Jeff, about preparation. Preparation's good, but what's the biggest thing we need to be able to do?
Something that I learned a long time ago. Back when I went through David and Frederick in the islands, is that you have to be able to adapt.
Yes.
Because if you can't adapt, you're not going to survive. Mm-hmm. And you can see it in our state right now. The Keys, I'm not sure if it was the mayor of Key West or one of them came out and said, you're on your own. Because there's nobody coming. Mm-hmm. And if you want to come back, you got to live on your own. Mm-hmm. Now, think about that. That's modern day where we have all this technology, all this stuff going on, and the people that are supposed to be helping you are saying, you are on your own.
Right.
Now, that means you're on your own for your own water, your own power, your own food, your own well-being. How many people in this state do you think are prepared for that?
I'd say very few.
Less than a handful.
Yeah. And so if it's less than a handful, what frightens me about this whole thing is one, that after the storm, we haven't seen the governor. I don't know what happened to him.
I don't even go there.
But people do desperate things in desperate times, and they do things to survive. And if they don't have food and they don't have water, they're going to find it or they're going to take it. Now,
right.
This wasn't as bad as that, but it could have easily been as bad as that.
Well, and unfortunately, there was. Now, of course, we lost all communications when our power went out.
Oh, it's not just communications. But think about this. Everything that runs your highways, that lets you know if there's traffic on the highway, everything that has to do with power lights, traffic lights, everything.
I know. We had our radio going, and they were talking about people. Now, look, there's no stoplights. You have to have four-way. Every intersection is a four-way stop, and they were talking about people just running through these.
I gotta get out of here. I gotta go.
It was like, wait a minute, people. Let's think logically here. And I actually last week, and I think Richard will contest. I think he was very pleasantly surprised. I stayed positive. I stayed focused. I actually was in a survival mode last week, knowing that, we were going to get the positive. We would get through this, but I wanted to help anybody I could, but I really didn't know how to help anybody. And I will say there were so many of our friends and associates that reached out to us when they realized we had no power. You can come stay here. And one of our friends who rents out short-term apartments by the weekend had one come vacant, and she says, "You guys have it." And then we got the power, but everybody was really out there helping people, and
there was, and I want to share a little bit more about being prepared. Okay, mm-hmm. So when we lived in the islands, those storms came through. There literally was no power. Where we were at, we had our own generator for power. And it took them 2 weeks because the water encroached on this, and they had to rebuild part of this generator, this power plant. And we were without for 2 weeks. Now, a lot of people say, I'm prepared. I have rice. I have beans. I have this. I have that. But you hit on it. If you can't cook it, What good is it? If you don't have water, you can't make that rice.
No.
So you've got to be really thinking about things that, if this happens, what are my options? What am I going to do? And then prepare yourself for that. But what I've seen in this last 2 weeks, people don't seem to think like that.
No, and I'd like to say to them, like right now, look at what the islands are going through again. I mean, they're being battered a second time.
They are being hammered.
And I feel my heart is breaking for them, because I know that we as Americans would not be able to adapt to that.
No, look at Barbuda.
Oh my gosh.
There's nobody on that island.
Our good friend.
They left the island because they can't. There's nothing there. Nothing left.
We have a good friend. Actually, he was a guest on our radio show a few years ago, Darian Hill, who's in Orlando. His his mom is there, and family is there, was there on Barbuda. And I think did they take him? They
took him to another island. Yeah,
yeah.
Because there's nothing that they can do on that island right now.
Well, that island is also in the path of Maria, so whether they've already been hit or not. So, I mean, how? I guess that's the one thing I think we, as business people, individuals, we really need to step back and really think about how we need to change some of our processes so we can adapt easier.
Yeah, you go back. How many people in Brevard County could start a fire from scratch? No matches, no lighters, no nothing. How many people could actually create a fire if that's what they had to do to survive, to cook something?
I know 2 for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what. My family up north were saying, okay, Cheri, Cindy, you're down in Florida. Start using those Girl Scout tips that you learned all those years of being a Girl Scout,
Exactly. But, but people don't realize that we don't do that anymore. You know, to be a Boy Scout or Girl Scout or any of these things, that's taboo. That's not cool.
That's nerdy, to be those things, yeah.
So we don't know how to survive in the wild. We don't know how to handle a camping experience that doesn't have built-in air conditioning in the tent.
And that's frightening. That really is frightening.
Well, what are your thoughts, Jeff, about, I've read some articles these last few days, now that I have communication again, because we had no cell phone or anything, or internet or whatever last week, so I did feel like I had no communication with the outside world. But I have been reading some articles where people say, you just got to stop rebuilding down there. You need to just take your money from your insurance company and run, especially those in the Keys. I'm thinking, who are these people?
They're transplants from the north. But you can't just do that.
No, this is our home.
What you need to do is educate people in a better way, I think. We can't, it's one of those things that you need to plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And you need to, people need to stop worrying about the state of Florida or the city government or the county government taking care of you after a storm, because it's not going to happen a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And so you have to prepare yourself to be on your own for a little while. And if you don't, you're gonna be hurting.
It is. It's I mean, you hit the nail right on the head there. If you didn't do it, you have nobody to blame but yourself.
I know. I mean, I told every time there's a hurricane threat, and we do. I mean, some of the lessons I learned even through this one was that actually I still had all my papers and such still in a plastic container or plastic bag from Matthew. We evacuated. All I had to do is get my new insurance policy in there. But I learned a very important lesson that we spend so much time prepping for the storm, and we should already be prepared and have all those items in a container. And we got lax here in our county because 2004 was when we had kind of a trio. We had Charlie come across from the west over, and then we had the Gene and Francis that came in through our coast. And then Matthew last year, and we kind of, remember the hype that we thought, we were getting kind of, told by our governor, start preparing, this is going to be bad, serious. We have people on news telling us if you don't leave, you're going to die. And it got scary, and then we didn't get anything really.
Yeah, Irma got mad though at her brother and decided to take it out on us.
Yeah, you got that right.
But can I say something about the prep stuff?
Please.
So